be excused. She's traveling, so I make a motion to excuse Director Reach.
I'd like to second the motion.
Motion made in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We also have our student representative Maya available, as well as our superintendent, Dr. Middleton. And Emma still might be joining us.
Yeah, she might be joining us.
Okay, all right, we'll wait for Emma. We'll let her know when she gets here. All right, we're gonna move into item 2, recognition communication. We're gonna start board comments. I'm gonna kind of break my normal practice and I'm gonna open with board comments myself. Usually I go last. I'm gonna start. I'd like to start by making just an announcement. I received word late Saturday that Director Adams, she told me I can share this, has had some personal changes in her life and will need to relocate soon. And she's actually resigned from the school board. So we now have an opening in our school board. Just so people are aware, the procedure at this point, if a director does resign, is the board selects a replacement. Very soon, you'll see actually an advertisement to accept applications to join the board. We'll then schedule interviews with the board, at which time we'll make a selection for the replacement for Director Adams. We don't have the exact time out yet, like the exact timeline for our dates goes, but that is the process that actually takes place. So you'll get those probably very shortly seen on the website and probably in other communications as well. I wanted to publicly thank Director Adams. It's not an easy thing, as all of us are aware, to put yourself out there, run for a position and be elected and serve and represent. So anyone willing to do that always has my highest esteem, and especially Director Adams. I want to say thank you to her for that. I'll leave that up to my board comments and we'll move on. Director Carey.
Yeah, just to tag on to which obviously it's a big loss to have Director Adams leave, but certainly wish her well. But to tag on a couple of things that you said, so I think that under RCW, we have to fill that role with someone who lives in that district within 90 days. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's 90 days, yeah.
And then that person doesn't serve the four-year term. They serve basically until the next election, which is like approximately a year and a half, 2 years from now, right? And then,
well, so but it depends on how soon we fill it, because if we get it filled before the filing deadline, then it wouldn't be this fall, because that's the next election.
oh, okay.
So if we do get it filled, before the filing deadlines in May, then they would have to run this fall, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah, so that's the next available election.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I had one comment, and it's a little bit long, so I guess bear with me. I just wanted to talk real quick about a local school district that has filed a suit against the state relating to local property tax dollars for schools construction, the Waukeam. I'm sorry, Waukeam. Okay, well, I looked it up. Waukeam.
Well, I grew up. Okay.
I looked it up.
Mascots the mules, just saying.
They filed a suit that claims that small districts, rural school districts, much like ourselves, are less likely to pass construction bonds, provide modernized schools for students. And what they contend in their suit is, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, which is why I wanted to talk about it in my comments, was that public education is supposed to be kind of the great equalizer in our democracy, and our state government has a failure to amply fund small and/or rural school districts' capital needs, which actually ends up doing the opposite of what they should do, which is kind of perpetuate a class of inequality. So schools are the only place that we really put the burden of infrastructure on the back of local taxpayers. I mean, just think about if we did our roads and our bridges and other things that way. Here in Lake Stevens, they would have wonderful modern bridges, and we would have bamboo bridges, I assume, or timber bridges. It just doesn't make sense. So also in the suit that they claim, and again, is absolutely true, is that if you look at the tax base of rural school districts comparative to very affluent, both in business and home districts, I'm just going to use Mercer Island as an example, not to say that they're bad, but they certainly are property and value rich. If Mercer Island wanted to raise $30 million for a school bond, it would only be an increase of approximately 12 cents per 1,000 of assessed value to do that. Here in Granite Falls, I did a rough estimate. It would be approximately $4 per thousand for us to raise the same amount of money. So How is that equitable? That would be an additional $1,400 in property taxes on a $350,000 home. So voters, and I've said this before, we've talked about regionalization, but now we're talking about bonds. Voters in small districts are understandably reluctant to pass bond measures based upon that inequity and cost. And as we all know, bonds require a 60% majority. And the result is that students in small rural districts like Waukegan, or in Granite Falls, struggle to pass bonds that have buildings that are technologically or seismically or as modern as comparable much larger districts. So equity in school is not, in school funding is a demand really for equal outcomes. It's not a demand for equal outcomes, but a question of equal opportunity. A student's zip code should not determine whether or not their school building is seismically sound or modern or has updated amenities or adequate space for learning. There's been a ton of national studies that have demonstrated that increased spending in really affluent districts doesn't affect test scores, but it does absolutely affect test scores in small and rural districts. So this suit has my full support, and I really hope that the state Supreme Court looks at it hard to make sure that the state is upholding its paramount duty, which is to fully fund education, which in my opinion, they still aren't doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kincaid.
No comments.
All right. All right.
Well, what's been happening in the high school is that we just got done with food drive, and it was really awesome to see all the students work really hard for something that is bigger than just them. So that was really awesome to see, and it was an amazing experience, and so that was really cool. Girls basketball just won their game yesterday, and boys basketball has a game this Friday, so that should be fun.
And I just remembered I need to add something. It's not really board comment, but I was going to do it during my time, but I'll do it now. Back in November, we attended the WASTA conference. And usually what we do is as a board, we get a present for our student representatives who attend. I understand you and Emma were able to attend some conferences virtually. So we got to each a book to say thank you for that dedication. So this is yours, Maya.
Oh, thank you.
It's a calendar, and this is for Emma. I'll put that at her desk, and we can make sure she gets that at a later time. But thank you so much for your dedication and hard work. All right. Moving on then, we'll go to district report, start with the teacher and learning report prepared by Dr. Mans.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to submit a report. And I'm just really here this evening to ask if you have any questions, if there's any additional information that I can provide.
All right, board. We had a chance to review the report. Are there any additional questions or comments that you had for Dr. Mans?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Yeah, go for it, Carl. Yeah, go for it.
I saw in there it's a discussion about Director working on a family and parent advisory council. Could you tell me more about that? The vision and stuff?
I'd be delighted to tell you more, and Director Kincaid, feel free to share as well. We are very excited to co-chair a new family and parent advisory council. Family advisory. The purpose is to give voice to our families, to increase engagement with schools, and to partner on behalf of our student success. And so we've met to do some initial planning. We have a vision of how we will be inviting people to come, and we want to broadly reach out to our community to request participation. And then we'll be able to choose parents, family members who represent our community. We hope to get many perspectives, demographics, ages of children, and so forth. And then we have a structure and some goals for this year. And our first goal for this year is to create a parent and family advisory plan, an engagement plan. And so this group will be working over multiple years, increasingly helping provide guidance and advice for us as we're contemplating decisions and working on projects. But that very first, we wanted to make sure we have tangible accomplishment by the end of the year. And it just made sense that this would be the team that's charged with creating an engagement plan. And as we talked, we pictured that we have a written plan, but we also want to create a visual, almost like a graphic that shows families at each of the schools and district-wide, here are the ways that you can become involved. If this is your passion, this is what comes next. We have the good fortune that we have the board president in a neighboring district who is highly esteemed in the area of family engagement, who will help us with some of the planning as we get started and even help us lead our first meeting. And we also intend to put a survey out to our families. And along the way, I have to say, thank you so much. Director Kincaid and I really enjoyed meeting. Our minds were just full of ideas and really on the same path. And she has done a great deal of research in terms of listening to families already, coming up with a wide range of reaching out. And then we've also looked at what other districts have done well, and we're learning from some internal conversations and documents, what lessons learned that we can be aware of before we even get started. So we're aiming to begin our first public meeting in February, and then looking at potentially March and April with the final product by May or June, that we then be able to share with families as they're getting ready to come back for the next year. So that's a summary. I appreciate the opportunity. Director Kincaid, if you'd like to share.
Just the only thing to add is that I'm just really excited about it, and just we're really passionate. Karen and I are really passionate about really reaching out to the parents and getting them involved and getting them, opening that communication with them and making them feel welcome and let them know how much we need them. So it's really exciting.
So I think it's a great idea too. So a couple of questions, I guess. So is this group, is the intent to, I guess, are they advising on decisions that the board is going to make, or are they advising on other?
And we certainly respect the leadership of the school board and would never, want to step into that domain of the school board director's work. But the aim is really to align with the work that's lined out for district leadership, and that is to engage the community in a process of continuous improvement, and not just when we ask, but they're motivated to step forward. That comes directly from what we hope to have happen at not the board level, but district leadership work. And so we would, this is a first step, but we may anticipate if we're looking at making some changes in programs, or there may be some projects that we're looking at taking on, that those would be places where we would gather some feedback and engage. We also anticipate that we will hear from our families some things that we may not be aware of, that we can dialogue about, learn about, and then seek ways to improve. Because the idea is that this is a team that can affect positive change.
Yeah. So I guess this question is, Chair, so do we need to, this is a really great idea and something that I think needs to live countless years in the future. We don't currently have a policy that creates this or says what they do or kind of lines out that. Don't we need to also kind of in tandem do something from a policy standpoint so that this lives in actuality?
I like making that part of like the fabric of our district. I agree.
Yeah.
And then we can make a policy if we see fit. We just need to find out who's going to be in the committee to frame that policy.
Yeah.
We just make like a policy committee, board member, potentially two, and then of course others to frame it.
Because I actually think it would be, I know we don't necessarily, we also have a board role of a community liaison that we don't really have in policy either. It's kind of a symbiotic thing. And I'm not saying this because you're not currently community liaison, but I think we should make a community liaison, and that community liaison person should sit there, or whoever we
Make it
or
part of that role.
designee or whatever. That seems like a great role for that person, because they don't really formally have a role.
Yeah, and we have been developing tasks and part of that role, but that's a great thing to add to that as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that can easily be done. to see if find people willing to get the policy written.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And I don't, I guess, just to clarify my statement on feedback from the board, not that I don't have a concern about a parent group. I actually think that in some ways we need a good stakeholder group, parent group that, does give feedback back to the board about upcoming policies and other things like that. I'm not against that. I was asking that for clarification because obviously that's something that we want to get in policy also, as far as when they come back, how often they come back, and what that interaction looks like. So
That's a great question, and we would defer to you to help us define that.
Yeah.
The intent is really to bring parent voice into partnership to improve learning for students. And if you see a function that, a helpfulness in that, then we would defer to your guidance on it.
obviously nothing, I mean, in future board meetings, I'd love to talk more about maybe creating a policy and stuff on
Yeah.
that. So great work, Director Kincaid. So the other question I had is, I saw in your report that speaking about the levy plan, you mentioned that we're moving to one-on-one devices for our students, new teacher devices, yada, yada there. And we've talked about it a couple of times. I guess I just want to, are we truly a one-on-one device district as we talked about? And, if not, what do we need to get there? Talk me through that.
Yeah, thank you. And in my report, I was summarizing reaching the end of the 4-year cycle. And in case you're interested, we've also been working on what the next 4-year cycle would look like if our voters approve the levy. But we wanted to acknowledge the good work that's come from our support of our community. And so we are basically at 1-to-1, which means that every student who needs a device has a device at home. And in some cases, we're 2-to-1, where it might be, homeless situation where there needs to be a device stored at school that may not always come back because of different places in the evening. But that is a changing target because, unfortunately, devices get broken or misplaced, and then we're tracking down. And then we have been fortunate to welcome more students to Granite Falls. So that also has been a busy time of acquiring. We thought we were 1-to-1, then we had more students come in and acquiring more. So we are actively looking for grants. We found not only the technology levy, but several other grants that have helped us this year, in addition to the one that's listed in the board report. And we continue to just really scout for those because our intent is to continue to not only replace devices as they come off cycle, but to grow our stores so that we're ready for growth.
Yeah. One of the things, and maybe it's just in different messaging, and feel free to chime in here also, Dr. M. I hear the 1-to-1 term used a lot. And it seems to be, I've engaged in a lot of conversations with other colleagues, and it seems to be a floating definition on what is considered a 1-to-1, right? Because I spoke to a colleague in a very affluent district, and they consider a 1-to-1 meaning every kid goes home in their district with a device. Whether you need that device or not, you go home with a device. And they have a robust infrastructure and, like a really robust IT department that helps kids with that and stuff like that. And that device, is intended to travel, whether it goes back and forth and whether they intend to use it or not. I don't know if there's any formal definition of 1-to-1. I would guess maybe there is, but I guess I want to make sure in our messaging that if we are truly 1-to-1, great, let's say that. But if we're not, then to be careful with that. I mean, and that's not, I'm trying to be demonstrative. I guess I don't even understand as a leader in this district if we are truly 1-to-1, right?
Yeah, I do have to commend the tech department because we had to pivot very quickly in March of 2020 to get devices out when we went to remote learning. Having come from a 1-to-1 district, there are some components that we had there that I would love to bring here, but those are part of those that 6% dollar. Again, that's it's $1.5 million that we're missing out on that Lake Stevens and Snohomish and others that are funded that we're missing out on. And what I would love to see is continue to build a pretty robust technology department where we're integrating full-time tech integration. It's one thing to have a device, and I'm so pleased that our students do. It's another when we do active professional development with all of our teachers on how to integrate the curriculum and student learning. And we have pockets of that because we have some teachers that are just, there's pioneers that want to do that. And then we have others that are, a little bit more reluctant. But those are some things I would like to see in the future to have more of that definition, perhaps that you've had with other directors in other districts.
So it sounds like we're light one-to-one maybe, or like if there's levels, maybe we're at the lower level one. Because I think that's, you brought up a great point. I think that's part of the messaging. We deserve, our students deserve to be one-to-one. Our neighboring districts are one-to-one, quote unquote. We can't do it based upon a discrepancy in the funding model at a state level. So let's be transparent about that, right? But if we are one-to-one, then let's say that we're one-to-one. I guess I don't even, do you consider us one-to-one based on what you said?
We're a one-to-one when it comes to devices to students, but there's, again, some components I would like to see that, in my mind, would make us true one-to-one.
One-to-one, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point. I guess I just wanted to talk about that. And then, so the other, just one more, the inclusive transitional kindergarten. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. We had discussed prior to COVID the idea of supporting all students and being ready for kindergarten. And so lots of work going on in that area. Director Butler is a part of that team. One component is there are families whose children don't qualify for any of the existing programs, but the 4K preschools are just out of reach. And there's a gap. We just don't have enough services for our 4-year-olds. So it is possible now to have a transitional kindergarten. There were some questions about it, but it's been defined. And so we're aiming for
When you
that.
say transitional kindergarten,
I will.
that term.
Yes, it's a program for 4-year-olds who come to school just as if they were going to be in school as kindergartners. They're registered, but they get a full year of experience prior to starting kindergarten. And so it's a specific, it's a program. It wouldn't just be kindergarten, but it's actually what they need at 4 years old and to close the gaps. And we're looking at an inclusive transitional kindergarten. So it would include children who are typically developing and children with special needs. Because oftentimes children with special needs might be put in a special class, and it's so important for them all the kids to be together, and they learn from one another. And so they would be in that regular classroom and getting special ed services, plus, the general ed services, and then anything else they qualify for. If they qualify as an English learner, they get that as well. And it would be here on site at Mountain Way. We need to create a structure for it and handle just like an extra grade at school. But the nice thing is it's the children that might not have access. Otherwise, we're working with our community to create, like, how do we identify the students who would most benefit from that year? And oftentimes what I've heard happens in other districts is you get students who maybe haven't had a lot of social interaction and maybe need some support even with not only academics, but learning how to be in school, how to be a student. And then they have that 4-year-old time. So by the time they get to kindergarten is just a lot smoother for them. They're ready to go. So we've applied for a grant from the state, which would allow us to be a cohort with others that are doing the same work, where we get all the research-based guidance. We're meeting regularly. We get some funding to support us with the work. And it's a competitive grant, but the good news is that I received an invitation to come to a welcome orientation meeting before they announced the winners. So that's very encouraging. And the work that we did with the early learning team has been really highly respected. So several people from the state office and the regional office at the Anacortes have even said they might like to come out and visit some of the early learning work. So they're feeling like we're a good fit, that we would also benefit the others. So our goal would be to open September 2022. So this September. So there's a lot of planning that needs to happen between now and then. And then in terms of fiscal impact, we do get funding for the children as if they're in kindergarten. And so we do get the FTE for them. And then the grant funding helps us purchase some equipment, supplies, learning for the teachers. And then they qualify for all the regular services. And we have quite a bit of support too. We have letters of support from our partners in the community who serve early learners. And they were all a part of Boys and Girls Club, the child care providers, early Head Start, and so forth. And then we have people who are very excited to be on this team. We also have preschool teachers who are very excited that we're looking at this additional option. So it's a team approach to supporting our students.
So it's a neutral impact to the fund balance then at the
Right,
end of it?
right.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it. Awesome, because I know we didn't talk about it at budget time, so I just wanted to make sure that it was down for stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and on that committee, I mean, we wouldn't have done anything to bankrupt the district. If it was gonna bankrupt, we would have like, yeah, wait a minute, but yeah, it's taken, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Mann.
Thank you.
All right, CTE Quarterly update. Mr. Davis.
So good evening, and I'm going to try to use the new board for the PowerPoint presentation for tonight. So in our first picture here, those were made during Halloween by our middle school in the new business, in the new manufacturing classroom. They made out pumpkins to send home and such. So our first goal is always about telling our story. And so what we have done since our last meeting is we've created some web pages on our district website to tell our story. And so on our Granite Falls School District website, you can go to the Granite Falls CTE home. And this takes you to our page here. And on our page, you'll see that one of the first things we have is I've created a Granite Falls CTE. What is CTE? What does it do? And so we have some education, about here's what we do, here's what we offer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the main thing is up on top here, you're going to see that we have all of our different program areas. So if we look at one of the program areas, and these are all a work in progress. We're continuing to upgrade them and work it through. But in our business marketing program area, when you come into the area, what we have done is we've created this type of chart where in every area we've gone onto the OSPI website, we've pulled off, here's some industry that you can, if you were in business area, you can do some of these things. And we're never going to list all of it. We're just grabbing a handful. This is intended to, for a parent who doesn't know, a student who doesn't quite sure, what is this CTE area? Well, if I come on here, oh, this is talking about computer technicians, this is talking, et cetera, et cetera. Over here on this side, what we have is the classes that we offer at Granite Falls School District. So we include both, all classes that are offered either at the secondary level, which would be Crossroads and high school, that you could take. And so we list the codes that go along with it. But we also, and then we come in at what are some post-secondary options. Again, this is intended for a quick snapshot to say, hey, if you like this, well, after high school, you can maybe go this direction or go this direction if you so desire. Again, more information. And then we also include the Granite Falls School District graduation requirements so that you know what you need to do to graduate. We always put in here in everyone about, hey, if you're interested in this, contact your counselor and do those things. We've also included on the website is we'll have rotating pictures that will go through showing students in the various schools, so they can see kind of what the programs do in our life and stuff like that. And these will rotate throughout the school year. We've included, I've met with every teacher And on this site here, I've encouraged teachers, hey, Trudy Sullivan, business teacher, if you'd like to include your own website that you've developed under the Grand Falls School District webpage, we'll attach a link to it so that they can click on that link and go directly to your program to get more specific information. So that we want to make sure that we're not intended to go through all the information, because this gives you a chance to get, here's a brief, and then you can go here to get more information as we go through this. And all of these are, have something similar to this front page that anybody can come in and see. Here's skills, our technical, which include pictures of our shop. And these pictures will also include, again, like I said, middle school, high school, but specific to this area, so that we focus in there. The other thing that what we have done is, as far as telling our story is we made we have 6 program of study areas that go along. Where this impacts is that as a high school student, you maybe are looking to offset your SBAC scores or a pathway for graduation. Well, if I do that, I need to take 2 CTE classes within a program of study. And that's kind of where this kind of falls in. So we have color-coded all of our programs of study. The previous slide had business and marketing up, but this is our skilled and technical service program area. You'll see that we have the different clusters that fall under this program area, the manufacturing cluster, our arts AV tech cluster. And where you see the paw print, that denotes that that's a Crossroads classroom. So that we make sure that, artistic design is offered at Crossroads, it's not offered at the high school. So that you can easily tell where it's going to be. These 2 classes on this side, those are different colors, purple motif, and now we have these denote that these courses can be found in every one of our program clusters. So if a student takes career choices, that would go to any of our program clusters. If I were to take Core Plus One, it only applies to this program cluster. That's why it's purple, that's why it's on this. So we've taken these charts and gone to the counselors at the high school, the counselors at Crossroads, and said, here are these to help you use it with students to help them make decisions on the classes they want to take and track how they can help the graduation pathways. And this is evolving like everything as we go through it, and we take back their feedback, say, hey, we would like this information and that information. And if you walked into my office, we have these posted on the wall. It's just a real quick visual reference for us, but it also tells our story about what classes and things that we're offering in the various programs study. In our goal 2, talking about, this is some of the grants that we've written and received this year and this fall semester. We received $11,000 for our Perkins grant. I mean, you can see the numbers that are up there. The Perkins Reserve Grant, you have to apply for it later. So we ended up getting, I want to say over $6,000, well, almost $9,000, $11,000 in from the Perkins Reserve Grants. This is additional after they gave out the grants for those various things. And then we were awarded again this year, the aerospace grant for $17,000. The career preparation and launch grant is presently at OSPI, and I should find out in the next week or 2. They're going over them right now. In fact, I talked to somebody at OSPI. I wrote that grant for up to $150,000 for our programs, and inside that grant of $150,000, we wrote was for autonomous table for our vet and our sports medicine. It's a table where you can look at the cadavers. They actually have 4 or 6, I can't remember, of actual human cadavers that gave permission, and you can peel it away, take the skin away, so you just have bones, you just have the blood system, and it also has animal cadavers in there also, so that you can study the various things on the table. And it's pretty neat. I saw it when I was in New Orleans, about $80,000 to get one. And then we included also a complete renovation of one of our computer labs to upgrade Mr. Nihi's class in more high-powered computers to the tune of between 30 and I think it was around $50,000 worth. And then we would both take those. So I should find out what we get. Hopefully we'll get, if we don't get it all, we'll get some, and then we'll make a decision. McKenna Ellenhausen, who is our new ag teacher at the high school, went out this fall and wrote 2 grants, one for $2,500 and one that we just found out a week or so ago or right before Christmas. She received from Washington FFA $25,000 grant. So we're going to use that. So far this year, we've received a total of $66,000 worth of grants for CTE programs. And I'm hoping that, we'll receive $210,000, once we get the other pieces. So we're always looking out, like all of us, we're always looking out for other grants to utilize and to get, and every one of these dollars ends up going back to our kids in some way, shape, or form. Some of the facility updates that we've done in the fall here. Obviously, we've been working very hard on our culinary arts room. We, in fact, just this week, our new TVs and camera came in. So they're going to be putting those up in the culinary arts, sort of like what you have here in the boardroom, camera over her stove so that can be broadcasted. So no matter where you are in the room, you can watch the TV and see what she's doing, et cetera, et cetera. And we've only waited, we ordered that last year, I want to say in about March or April, and it's just now gotten off the containers outside of Los Angeles to here. So they're putting that up this week in her room, as well as some other things. We weren't able to do the complete renovations that we'd like to do with that. And that will probably be coming back to Dr. Middleton because it's going to have to be a bond issue. The cost was so expensive if that's so chosen to be. The Crossroads Greenhouse area, if you were to look out back behind us over here on the Crossroads side, we're rearranging that to make it more accessible and easier for our Crossroads agriculture class to go out and utilize and grow produce in that area that they're going to give to the food bank and possibly to the our food program, our lunchroom program. So we put a gate in out there, and she's looking to reorient where her greenhouses are. Manufactured ventilation area at the middle school is one of the things that was not completed when we did the bond for that. It was one of the things that got cut. We've been able to update that. So if you walked into the shop area, it now has drops from the ceiling or the saws so that it sucks up the sawdust right away. It's pretty common stuff that, and we also, the vinyl printer room needed to have some ventilation put in. And so we're working on that. And we had to repair the vinyl printer from COVID because we didn't use it. And we're just getting that done and up. So vertical teaming, that's happening in this month where we started January 5th. In fact, today I met with the agricultural teachers in the district, our middle school teacher, which is John, and our high school teachers and the Crossroads teachers. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we have a comprehensive program 712 and that we're all pulling in the same direction and we're helping, teachers are talking to teachers and we're moving the program so we're not doing isolation in one grade area and it's not helping it out. And we go across not just, like for example, not just vet science, which is agriculture, but also in our plant area, et cetera, et cetera. So the general goal though is for each program area is to develop well-organized and thought out plan to create a successful 712 CTE program. The other issue that we're talking about is what do we want to do next year? What are the new courses we want to offer? What direction do we want to be headed towards next year in the conversation we do that? So in the next 4 to 5 weeks, I'll be meeting with each of the program areas and all the teachers that are involved with that and the administrators are invited to join that conversation also. Work-based learning. So we've been working on this. So I work with the other school districts, the CTE directors, and we talk about work-based learning opportunities. So it's just not Granite Falls or whatever. It's across the from Edmonds to really up to Bellingham is where we're looking at various ways to do that. I'm setting up a meeting with, sure, I think it's Brent, the city manager, right?
Brent Kirk, yeah.
Yeah, so he's out on vacation till the 13th, but I'm going to set up I've got in the works setting up a meeting with him and I'm the snow, our Sonoma STEM person is going to meet with me also because she's worked on developing things and we're looking at trying to get our high school students into some summer internship programs with the city or how we can work that in and get them going and working that through the course of the year. So we're working on that. Hopefully next board report, I'll be able to report about that. We're exploring internship with the apprenticeships opportunities with Sonoma STEM, which is also Sonoma County. We talk about various ways that we can get kids into work programs that give them work-based learning. We've identified a person who's just starting up a new business in Marysville, clothing, special ed pieces of that. They're looking for marketing interns. So I contacted the high school counselors, let them know, as well as Crossroads, that if there's any students that are interested in this, here's an opportunity to go work at a startup company, to start up and see how it goes and work through the marketing pieces. So we're exploring that, whether we find students. And Boeing just came out with their internship opportunities for Core Plus aerospace students, or aerospace students. And they will be applying to that. We've had students apply for this before, and we're looking, there's like 4 or 5 different areas. It's just not manufacturing of aerospace, they have that our students can apply for, and they go into the hopper with everybody in our area, and then they whittle it down, and hopefully we get somebody to apply for that. Oops. Dual credit agreements, they're slowly trickling in because of COVID and everything else. Everett Community College, just like over Christmas, kind of got to a lot of stuff. So we're offering the following dual credit courses. In other words, you can get Everett Community College credit at the same time you're sitting in that class and getting Granite Falls School District credit. And you'll notice that we have Granite Falls High School and Crossroads on several of these because we're working to make sure we have the opportunity for all students at the secondary level. And we have 2 classes out that we're working with the Pacific Northwest Consortium, College Consortium, and we know that we're going to get those. They just haven't come across yet. Professional development that we have scheduled. So this spring we have the WITEA, that's really manufacturing guys, that would go to that. In Wenatchee, we have WAE Summer in Pasco, and that's more agriculture people. And then our Washington ACT Summer program, which is for everybody in Spokane. But again, these are just 3 of the opportunities that we make available to all of our teachers. And we're able to pay for their way through our Perkins grant. So this really is, for the most part, no cost to our instructors. We pick up the room, the travel, the food, and their fees to a conference when we send them, whenever possible, as much as we can do. And I was waiting for somebody to ask if the horse is going to go to training. We plan on doing that maybe later. That's it for the presentation. This is a picture of our culinary arts students at the end of, on December 16th. They made gingerbread houses and had a competition to see, and had the staff at the high school vote on which gingerbread houses they thought were the best. And these are some of the winners and some of the houses that they made. You look at it and you would become a diabetic. There's so much sugar packed in that. But I was over there a couple of times and the kids were having a great time doing it. The room was a mess, of course, it should be. And it looked like a good thing. So with that, I will be open for any questions the board might have.
All right, I know I have several questions, but Director Kincaid, any questions? Carl?
No, other than the secret report.
I had a couple of things. First off, I want to just belabor the point of how great it is to have a good fund balance. We can get a lot of those grants. I know a lot of those are pay after we spend the money. So I want to just commend us on getting that fund balance where we can take advantage of that. So thank you for everyone involved with that. A couple of questions I did have. Actually, just one, really. The other ones I'm okay with. I didn't see it in your report, so I couldn't give you a question beforehand. Sorry about that. But you mentioned that there's some classes just at Crossroads. Is there a chance that students at the high school or students at Crossroads could take classes in the other schools? I mean, I look at our Crossroads students, is there a chance they could take, maybe join in into the, what's the word you used there? Not the court, but the set of classes.
Program study.
Yeah, I mean, is there a chance that like maybe Crossroads take advantage of some of those courses? I mean, is that possible?
We're in that conversation always with that. Because, for example, if you wanted to take a manufacturing class, obviously at Crossroads, you don't have that capability.
Yeah,
But if a student wanted to take one at the high school, we're always in conversation about looking at ways for that to happen. We've had that happen in the previous years, where we've had Crossroads students come over and take high school classes. We were able to work that out in those programs. And because of COVID, and COVID is my excuse for all of it, right?
yeah,
But because of COVID right now, just getting everybody back up and into school, we haven't advanced that conversation. But Bridget and I constantly, she's constantly looking at ways to help her students, and we're always having the conversation about what can we do to help with that. In fact, she was in the meeting today with the vertical teaming, and there was a class that the high school was looking to offer agriculturally wise. It's an independent study class next year, and we went, oh, that would be a perfect class for you guys to have over here. The other thing, what I will tell you that we're doing, not necessarily the kids are going there, but the staff is. So Lori, I think the agriculture teacher at Crossroads has been over in meetings with the agriculture teachers at the high school to make sure that what she's doing matches up to what they're doing. And we're also doing that in the biomed class and stuff like that. So the answer to your question in a long ways is yes, we would love to have that go open. We're interested in doing it. It just hasn't presented itself yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Maya, any questions? All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Huh?
Mr. Chair, I had a couple.
No, I'm okay.
Mr. Chair, I had a couple questions.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
And first, I just want to say thank you, because when we met in July with our work session, I know the board really charged you with, developing these goals and making good on them. And I'm really pleased with the work that you've done. And Dr. Manns, you've had your hand in this as well. So thank you for making a lot of this very concrete. I think when we look at our goals and when we talk, we want this to be a destination district, and career pathways and CTE has to be one of the selling points. So I think we're well on our way, and I just really appreciate all the work since our last quarterly report. The one question I did have had to do with the internship, and we listed some different opportunities. When we brought the food bank online with us, we really wanted that to be pretty integral. If there was a student who wanted to do workplace internship there, is that something that's possible, or?
I would say it's possible. We just need to.
Is that the articulation piece that we need to?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and to that point, next week, so each program has to have an advisory team. And the Crossroads Agriculture Advisory Team meets, which I believe Ms. Venegas is on that team. So we'll be meeting next week, next Thursday, I think, and I'm going to join that meeting with them and start to have those conversations about, okay, how can we, what are we looking at? How can we grow that? And then I'll start working on trying to go towards that internship and getting kids involved, and how can we get them credit? Because usually an internship means you're not getting paid. Apprenticeship, you could get paid.
Yeah.
So then it falls under all the work guidelines. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Because that was when Jeff Ballantyne came to us, that was really a big, really exciting piece so I appreciate you working on that. Then the last thing I just want to share with the board is Mr. Davis takes his work on the road for us, because we will sometimes have administrators who are gone for meetings or ill or something. And so when we made this decision to let's really invest in CTE. We also said, this would be an opportunity where we never have a building short of an administrator. And so I just want to thank you, because it's been a busy fall with some absences for a variety of reasons. And so I appreciate you stepping up, and I know those buildings do too.
Oh, I appreciate it. I have the opportunity to be the Monte Cristo principal for half a day. It took me several hours to not look up here because I'm used to high school kids and realize you're down here.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful time and a wonderful opportunity for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, 3C business report, prepared by Marshall Cruz, who I saw for a second, but there he is.
Marshall.
So mostly just here for questions on the report. Wanted to call out a couple of things. First of all, we had our January count on Monday, and our January enrollment count was 2139. So it was up 11 students from the December count. So seems like our enrollment is not only holding steady, but growing. That's our highest number we've had this year so far. Second thing I wanted to point out is that our general fund balance is slightly in the negative at this point. Part of that is due to we've had slow property tax collections. So there's quite a few property tax bills that are behind in our county right now. And also because our enrollment is so much higher than budget, we've had to staff at that level, and the state won't fix our apportionment until the January apportionment report. So we are staffing for 2,139 students, but we're only getting reimbursed from the state right now for 2,075 students. So when January comes, they'll backload all of our money to the beginning of the year, and we'll get it all in the second half of the year.
Just another great example of the wonderful and easy to understand funding system of the state.
Yeah.
I can't say, if I ran my business like that, well, I wouldn't have a business.
It's another reason why we need a good and maintain a robust fund balance.
Yep.
Our revenue is down about 300,000 or so, 200 and some change.
Yeah.
And our expenses are up about $600,000.
Right.
Due to the reasons that you said. And so, unfortunately, that tips us into the negative, and certainly we'll make that money up, but
Yeah.
We never like having to be in the negative.
Yeah. Any questions for Director Cruz's report?
He had on, I just want to talk quickly about the fund balance.
Yeah. All right, awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll go back to manning the overflow room. No.
All right, item 3D superintendent report.
Few things I wanted to visit with you about. December and November, it was sort of exciting to get away from sort of a COVID focused conversation, but we're really back to that again. And so I just want to share a couple of things from our health department call yesterday. Certainly cases are going up. One of the numbers that we've always watched for the last 20 months is what the rolling 2-week average is. And it wasn't that long ago when we got nervous when it got to be 200 or 250 and, everyone's talking about what's going to happen. Well, on Monday it was 900. And so it just, just sort of gives us some perspective of what we've been through, how our expectations and just our business has changed so much. And what's interesting is though that number has gone up, our health official, Dr. Spitters, also shared that right now our hospitalizations and deaths are down, though both he and the governor Tay at his press conference mentioned that, they anticipate hospitalizations to go up. A couple of things that make us nervous is we do athletic testing 3 times a week. And what's well known is the number of tests can't be produced and transported fast enough. And so there's real concern from some districts, despite us putting in an order for, to have plenty of tests on hand, that will be running out. And just from a outside of school perspective, you've probably seen in the news that, testing sites are now hours long instead of just being able to show up. So it's a little daunting right now. Again, the severity of this variant isn't as difficult as Delta or the original COVID, but it still impacts us. And when a student is positive, that does take them out of the classroom, and potentially those who are also in close contact. Let's see. A couple of other things. They do anticipate this surge will probably peak in mid-February to March. And so both the governor, State Superintendent Reichdahl, and Dr. Spitters have said it's going to be sort of a tough couple of months. What I do appreciate, and I've tried to send this message out on our Facebook Live over the break, is we don't want to close. We do not want to go to remote learning, hybrid learning ever again. And so we want to stay open. And I appreciate the leaders of our state saying that as well. And so as long as we have healthy students and healthy staff that are following the correct protocols, we'll continue to open our doors each day. There's certainly, you look at what other states are going through, and specifically Chicago with some of their decisions at the district level of trying to go to remote. And again, that's something we're not interested in. There is conversation about, what about crowds? And so in our conference, high school conference, we don't have visiting fans. So home court is really for the home crowd. And we even have concessions that are shut down so that, people aren't removing their masks. And that's just something that our conference has agreed upon. So I think that's about it on the COVID. The one concern I do have is if we get too many staff members who are out, there could be a time when we don't have enough subs to cover. And so we might need to make a very difficult decision for a day or two, a very short term, because we don't have the staff to shut down. But at this point, Monday we had a number of people out, but we were able to cover. And I know over the next couple of days, the number is lower. So I'm encouraged by that, but it is just something that is always on our radar, really every evening and every morning when we get leave requests because of illness. A couple other things I do want to give a shout out to our maintenance over this last weekend. Those guys were out for 3 days, just clearing parking lots, and it was not a light snow. And honestly, we don't have the equipment to be real efficient. And it's something Marshall and I talked about, that we need to perhaps invest in some better snow removal for something like that. And then it was so cold over winter, we had Dion going to every building every single day, checking boilers, and these guys deserve a break, but right now I just want to give them thanks for all of their work during this really crazy weather. And this is just something I know this already, and for those who may be watching, I just want to reiterate: we make the decision on a school delay or a school closure extremely seriously. I mean, it really impacts families. We know that, but we also have to put the safety of our students and families who are driving into consideration as well. And this is a decision that's often made between 3:30 and 5 in the morning as different ones of us drive the roads and communicate and then make that decision. So again, it's nothing we take lightly. We want to have students in class, but there'll be times like we did this week where we just have to delay and we make the best decisions that we can. And the final thing I have is, I don't know if you had a chance to see our Tiger Tales. This was sent out right before break. It just really complements what was talked about tonight by Mr. Davis and really highlighting a lot of the CTE programs that are going on. And then we have a informative levy flyer going out that will be in mailboxes on January 10th. And it is high quality. I just have to give Melanie a lot of credit for the hard work and time that she's put in to get this and especially that flyer out. So any questions or comments that you have for me?
I have a few, but Director, Director, okay, go for it.
I just had a question with your conversation with Department of Health that you said you had yesterday. So I know right now we're going off of a 10-day quarantine situation. I know the CDC has now recommended a 5-day. Are we headed in that direction? Or
Yeah,
are we gonna stay?
thank you for asking that, because I should have included that as well. We are waiting for that that direction from the Department of Health.
Okay.
And we were told to expect that late this week, early next week.
Okay.
And we will certainly adjust our timeframes based on that.
I think it's a great opportunity to explain to anyone watching how it actually works. If people say, well, the CDC said this, that's great, but we have to follow the county health
Yeah.
department, which I know you know that, just so people watching understand, that's how it
That's
works.
right. Yeah, it's
So the
Department
CDC
of Health
something,
and
We have to follow the county.
our Snohomish Health
Yeah.
District.
I had a question. So it seems like, and I know we've been kind of floating on the cusp of, hey, oh gosh, are we gonna have enough staff to cover with sickness leave and stuff like that? And it feels like, and I don't, just outwardly, this isn't based on any fact. It feels like we may be edging even closer to that maybe now with kind of coming off of leave and stuff like that. I was at Rite Aid actually earlier, and they mentioned to me that they're taking up 3 to 5 days to even get tests back due to just this huge flood of COVID test requests that they're getting. And, you couldn't find any rapid tests at home and stuff like that. There really seems to be struggling. So I know that we're doing this, but I guess I just want to ask the question, is there anything that we can do? Because it seems like, maybe one of those temporary 1-day, 2-day remotes, maybe, hopefully, God forbid, hopefully not, but maybe likely. Is there anything that we can do now to make sure that we're as well prepared for that as possible? And maybe we're doing everything, but I guess I just want to ask the question.
Can I add on to your question?
Sure.
It leads exactly to the question I was going to ask, which is, I think one of the answers is substitutes. Our pool of substitutes is pretty low, correct? I think for those listening, it might be beneficial for us, but also for those listening. What's the requirement to be a substitute and how can you apply? I think I'd like to include that. I know you know it because
I know.
you got the example. Maybe you can tell, but I think,
Yeah.
someone tell us like, how do you become a substitute? Because Director Kincaid has stepped up as a substitute, and I'm looking, I don't have a lot of time in my life, but I can, if there's a chance of like the school shutting down because they need someone, I might be able to find time to come be a sub. How would I apply to get on a list? How does that work?
Well, I think the is to go to our website, go to the HR department and talk with Jennifer Harmon, our Director of Human Resources, and she will get someone lined up. But for a classroom substitute, someone who has a college degree would put in their credentials and, we would do background checks and that sort of thing. But if someone is interested in that, absolutely, we need them.
So I guess the main thing I'm trying to say for the public is, to be a classroom substitute, all you need is a bachelor's degree. You
Correct.
don't have to have a teacher certificate, just have a bachelor's degree and be able to pass background check and some other requirements. But
That's
so
right.
if people are thinking, well, I can't be a sub, I don't have a teacher certificate. We need you. Your community needs you, especially at this time when, you know, Carl said, COVID is kind of just testing, it's taking so long, people are getting knocked out left and right. So, I mean, I encourage people to do that. And then for paras, you don't need college degree, correct?
That's correct.
And we need help there too as well. And I think Gresham K is a great example. I'm looking at doing that as well. I can't substitute every day, but if there's a chance shutting down school, maybe take it down from a regular job so the kids can be there.
Right, right.
And that's what I think, if we have more community members might be able to do that, it would help.
The other thing that,
Carl's question, yeah.
the other thing we're looking at is we want to encourage our subs to stay with us. And so we're going to be offering an incentive so that if you work with us, 75% of, 15 days out of 20 in a typical month, there'll be an extra little bonus. So something that, so they're not shopping districts, that they'd be really committed to Granite Falls.
But out of obviously trying to get more subs, is there anything else?
Yeah.
Do you think that we could do, whether it's program wide or policy? I mean, I don't know. I guess it, like I said, not based on just a personal feeling. It feels like we're at that really tough time coming off the holiday.
It is, you do feel like you're on thin ice every day. And I don't think there's anything more we can do. It's just, really encouraging families and staff to take their health seriously so that they do not send a student to school. Or if it's a staff member, please don't come if you're sick, because that's going to impact a lot more people, and to go get checked as soon as you can.
Just wanted to ask the question. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, Maya, any questions? All right, awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to our board reports, WIAA,
I have no report.
ledge report,
I kind of talked about it in my board comments, but outside of that,
and then community report. I want to share something with the community report for former Director Adams. One thing we talked about doing is we had a meeting scheduled last month to go over upcoming policies to review. And there was a lot of concern I got from people saying there wasn't enough notification to the public about the meeting. We have our standard way of doing it. One thing we talked about doing with Director Adams is with the community liaison role, is having them be in charge of putting out that information in more formats, make it part of their role. Seems like that'd be a great fit for the community liaison. Unfortunately, Saturday, that kind of went out the window. So we're going to rework that. But the main thing is that we have limited resources in our district because of the funding issue. We have one Melanie, where other districts have, three Melanies. So it didn't seem right to me to put, hey, Melanie, I need you to put now on this Facebook page and this and that, and do this and that and that. He's already doing the job of three people. So we're going to take that on as one of our board members. So we'll be reworking that to get that information out there in other formats, and kind of take that off of our staff that frankly are doing best they can with the limited resources that we're given from the state. So that's kind of the community report a little bit, as far as the role that they're going to be taking on as soon as we get another member in that role. Any questions, comments about that? And that does, that's it then. So, yeah. Moving on to items from the floor. Has anyone signed up, Melanie, either via Zoom or anyone in the room with join Marshall? Okay. There is no unfinished business. Moving to item 6, then new business. School board review goals. So Director Carey emailed me and said, what are the goals? The point of tonight is I really wanted to talk about how we need to set goals and set a time to actually have a board retreat to go over those goals. The plan is to have several board retreats with our new board members. And the next one is going to be about goals. So I want to talk about scheduling for that. The hope was we'd all be here, but Director Beach unfortunately wasn't able to make it because she's kind of trapped out of town because of weather. I feel like we could get some dates possible and when we have to have a board retreat, and then we could check with Director Beach, see which ones work best for her. That's kind of the plan for tonight. So if everyone has access to a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
is that something that we want to do before we have potentially another board member?
Well, because the timeline for getting the new board member is 90 days and, we just don't have I don't want to hold off setting our goals for something that might take 2 months. That makes sense. I hope it doesn't take 2 months, but it might. So I don't think it's worth holding off. Does that make sense? I mean, and again, this is something we come to as a consensus of the board, what we want to do. I mean, how do you, did you want to wait? Either of you or?
Well, I mean, a board retreat, I think should probably wait if we're, because that's going to be, you know, that person could be brand new potentially, and that could be valuable to help them kind of get the lay of the land, but I guess the goal is part of it, doesn't?
Then that's what this next retreat is about, is setting goals. Yeah, this next retreat is the sole purpose of getting our goals set for the next year. So, you guys want to look at dates?
Yeah.
I got my calendar open right now.
All right. So historically, what we've done is done it in one of the off weeks. Or maybe even on a, you know, Tuesday or Thursday night. So that being said, I mean, the 26th, there's no school board meeting. Is that a day that works for everyone here?
Yeah. Works for me.
I can make the 26th.
All right, let's get a second date, so Director Veach can tell us know which one works for them. Any other dates work for anyone?
I could do the 25th for the day before.
I can do the 25th as well.
Yeah, I can do that as well.
Okay, so there's a couple of dates. We'll talk to Director Veach. But I want you to come to this meeting, a little homework. You got plenty of time, you know, several weeks, but think of stuff that as a board that we can do to we can excel in our roles, but also help each other and the community as well. So think of like actionable items that we can come to, and we'll actually go with some what do you call it? Some exercises to refine goals, but come with stuff in mind. All right. So that's all I have for that. And then I will email Director Veach. I'm sorry. Do those dates work for? I was worried about us.
I think the 26th.
The 26th is better than 25th.
Oh, you said the 25th also?
Yeah, those are just 2 dates. I want to give Director Veach, you know, a couple days to choose from.
Yeah, either one works.
Okay. And then I would love for you and Emma to attend as well. Do you think? I mean, it's kind of hard to know without a calendar in front of you, but those potentially might work.
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, perfect. I will get with Director Veach and I'll email the board on the date that we choose. All right, so as we mentioned before, the meeting last month was to go over policies all at once, so we can get them all done at one time. Because of the issue of communication, what we decided to do is just do a handful at a time, just like we normally do. That way that, you know, that people have time to study a few at a time, put a meeting and talk about it. So there's.
Mr. Chair, can I describe how we chose these?
Yeah, please do. But yeah, so understand that we're just doing a handful at a time, first reading and second reading, so then the community can look at them that way and review them like they normally would, which it'll make it a little bit longer to get them all done, but they'll get done that way and we're making progress. So yes, Director or Dr. Middleton.
What I was going to share is we have, I think about 13, and that's going to grow as WASDA increases the number of policies. So we broke them down into goals that just need to be updated and brand new policies.
Yeah.
And so the first 2 sets of policies are simply updates from WASDA. And as you went through items 6B through 6G, you saw that there's nothing of substance in terms of changes. It's simply updating some language or updating some numbers and expectations, but there's really nothing of great substance in those. So we just thought, let's knock these out really quickly and then move on to the new policies.
Yeah. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. Get the ones that are like, for example, in 2108, Learning Assistance Program is the new title, went from remediation / Title I parent involvement. They just changed the title and edited a few paragraphs. So it's something that's just updating it, not changing it of any substance. That's why we chose those ones first. So that being said, let's begin looking at the first reading of these policies. So we have the first reading of amendment policy 2108. Any discussion on that before we entertain a motion? I looked at it, there's nothing that really substantive that I had questions about.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the first reading of policy 2108, read assistance program.
We have a motion. I'll go ahead and second that one. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The next one is first reading of amendment policy 2161. And that's the one that they actually made some additional ones, correct? Additional edits. Where did that go? Is that the one I'm thinking about?
It is. So we sent out what Mazda had initially had some changes, but they even updated that more recently, and that's what's at your place right now. And you can see again that there you're simply updating some of the language, but nothing of great substance.
Yeah, they added like the word disability. I mean, I look at it just, yeah, grammatical. So there's no discussion. Will entertain a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the first reading of amend policy 161, special education related services for students.
I second.
Motion is made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, next is first reading of amend policy 2162, education of students with disabilities under section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act 1973. Any discussion on this policy? There is no discussion. I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the first reading of policy 2418.
No,
Oh,
21.
I'm sorry, 2162.
Yeah.
All right. Education of students with disabilities under section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act 1973.
Motion made. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it passes. All right. First reading to amend policy 2418 waiver of the high school graduation credits. Any discussion? Not willing to entertain a motion. Director Kincaid.
Oh, okay, let's see if I can do it right. I can't.
I'd like to make a motion
I'd like to make a motion,
to accept and just read it.
okay, to accept the first reading to amend policy 2418 waiver of high school graduation credit.
Motion was made. Can I get a second?
Oh, second.
Motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes. All right, first reading to amend policy 3122 excused and unexcused absences. Any discussion on this amended policy?
I actually have a discussion on this one
Perfect.
because they are expanding or wanting to expand to 7 instead of 5 unexcused absences. But if you look at the list of what constitutes as an unexcused absence and excused absence, I don't really see a necessity to make it 7. Getting an unexcused absence is some tough work. So that was my concern, was that seems like 5 is a pretty good number. I didn't really understand why.
Does this have to do with the RCW? Do we know? Does it change in RCW?
It's a law change.
It's a law change. Yeah, you see the reference RCW 28A to, yeah. A lot of times when it's laws, it's because they're updating for law.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the first reading to amend policy 3122, excuse and unexcused absences.
I'll go ahead and, motion is made. I'll go ahead and second that. So motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? No, passes. All right, first reading to amend policy 3220, freedom of expression. Any discussion? This one, when I did read it, there's a lot more redlining, but it's literally just clarifying. There was no change of the policy in mind when I read it. There is no discussion. I'm willing to accept the motion.
So I motion to accept the first reading to amend policy 3220, freedom of expression.
Motion is made. Can I get a second?
Oh, second.
Motion made a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes unanimously. All right, so moving on to our consent agenda. With our minutes from our last meeting, personnel report and approval of consent agenda items. We do have some additions. Everyone see those for some new hires, as well as the resignation of Director Adams. Any discussion with the additions? I will accept the motion to accept the consent agenda with the additions.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda with the addition.
All right, motion was made. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimous. We are now going to join our meeting of the Granite Falls School Board. It is 7:20. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.